Hi and welcome to the channel. My name's Jonathan and I've been teaching academic English at Helsinki University for more than 15 years. And today I'm going to answer the question, is it true that there are no rules in English? So where does this question come from? It's certainly true that in English there is no single book of rules that says how things should be done. And that's different to some other languages like German and French, where there is a body of wise old men whose job it is to decide whether something is acceptable or unacceptable. We can say that English is descriptive rather than normative. That is, we describe how the language is used rather than prescribing how it should be used. My teachers always used to correct my English, you might say, and this is true. For the vast majority of cases, there are conventions that everyone agrees on, and this is even more true in academic English. In many cases, there is a clear right answer, and in many cases, there is a less clear answer. And in some cases, there is a very clear wrong answer. In some ways, this is the beauty of the English language, that it evolves with usage over time and doesn't require a body of old experts to decide what we should and shouldn't say and what is and is not correct. But it poses a problem for the language learner who needs to know what to do and what not to do. Doing things this way can lead to interminable disagreement. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Now you probably know that apostrophes, these little things, can be used in a couple of cases. They are used for possession, when somebody owns something, and they can be used to shorten words, what we call contractions. But you might also have seen somebody using them for plurals. For example, I was born in the 1980s, where the 1980s has this apostrophe before the S. Is that correct? Now, I confess that for decades I've been correcting students when they've used the apostrophe for plurals. But as you can see from these examples, using the apostrophe to pluralize letters and numbers actually makes it clearer. If you're pluralizing I without the apostrophe, it just reads is, and that is confusing. So there's a case there to be made. Having said that, many of the style guides, including the Oxford Style Guide, are still opposed to using it in any situation. So there is disagreement. So a second issue is what's called the Oxford comma or serial comma, and it's one of the most contentious issues in English grammar. The issue is whether you should use a comma before the final item in a list. So, for example, during the exam we are allowed a ruler, a rubber and a pencil. Should we use a comma before the and? And there is still no agreement on this issue, and a quick look at the Wikipedia entry for the Oxford comma will show you that style guides have very different opinions about how this should be handled. So this is all fascinating stuff, no clear rules, that's great. But what do you do if you want to know what the correct answer is? In the vast majority of cases, it doesn't matter too much. These are small issues that rarely arise, and it's not a problem for most publishers or journals to edit your work to fit their particular style. But if that's not satisfying for you, here are 3 ways you can go about solving this problem. So number 1 is to read the style guide for your discipline. In the academic world, there are different publishers like APA, MLA, Oxford, Harvard, and they have different rules about how they deal with these tricky issues. If you read the style guide for your discipline, and I'll link to the discipline-specific style guides below, you can quickly see what is correct for your particular discipline. The issue of style guides is important, and I'm going to release a separate video on that next week. So please like and subscribe if you'd like to see that. The second thing you can do is go to Stack Exchange, and there is a site called english.stackexchange.com, URL down below. And here you can ask and answer questions about anything to do with English. And a lot of the answers are very high quality, and they lead to debates among people whose real passion is resolving these tricky issues. I will link to examples of the Stack Exchange answers for the Oxford comma issue and the apostrophe issue that I mentioned earlier down below, and you can have a look. And thirdly, if you can't find a suitable answer above, you can use Google Ngram. Google Ngram is a service where Google uses its digitized books to show you the frequency of certain words or combinations of words and punctuation over time. Let's take a quick look at that now. So this is Google Ngram Viewer, and as you can see from the example, Google takes terms and searches all the books for the frequency that those terms are found. In the example here, we can see that after 2000, Sherlock Holmes and Frankenstein both became more and more popular, while Albert Einstein, who was initially quite popular, has tailed off a little bit. That's not very useful for your English. What's useful for your English is to put different options in here and see which ones are the most common. So let's take a basic example and say we're not sure which preposition to use with a month, for example. So somebody says it's on April, another person says it's in April, and another person says it's at April. Which one is going to be the most popular here? We can see that at April has no usage, on April has oddly had a lot of usage around 1942, but is not so popular now, and in April is by far the most popular, and in April is correct as far as I understand. So this is a very quick introduction to the Ngram viewer. You put your options in and see how frequent they are, and you can do your own detective work in figuring out what is appropriate or not. So what can we conclude? There certainly are rules, or as good as rules, in the English language, but there are also very unclear cases, and in those cases there are strategies for resolving those issues to your own satisfaction. I hope this helps, and I will be releasing more videos on some of these topics in the future. So please like and subscribe, and mention in the comments if there's any issues you'd like me to go into in the future related to academic writing.